Our guest today is an educationist and an ex preschool principal. She's an advocate of promoting holistic development of children. She is also instrumental in setting up book and toy library centers, physical as well as app based, to promote Playway methodology. She is currently devoted in building a community platform for parents, teachers, and caregivers. Extending a warm welcome to our guest, Nirupa Bora. So, why are you so passionate about what you do?
How can I be anything but passionate about what I do? Because we are talking about children here. We are talking about toddlers. And it's pure love. It's pure joy to be with them. They are like clay. They are like an empty slate. And they pick up not only from what you teach them, but they learn from observing you. So, it's like a two-way process. Every day we learn as much from them as they learn from us. And it's such a beautiful profession. Why would anybody not be passionate? I mean, it's a perfect reward for all the investment and time and effort that goes there.
Can you remember a leaf out of your, or a page out of your work, and that's memorable to you? Can you remember something like that?
Shireen, there are so many highlights, and it's very difficult to pick and choose. What I would like to share and what I can leave behind. But yes, there are a few moments that I always say that, I've been paid in kind. Moments where parents come up to you and tell you in the PTM that, the child has picked this from you so well. Sometimes the grandmother comes and compliments you, or the child just lovingly comes and hugs you first thing in the morning. Sometimes they try to say something in their cute little limited vocabulary, something like, I love you, teacher. And you feel you've conquered everything. I mean, you have it all when children come back to you like this.
So you've got to ask, what is it that people misunderstand the most about your profession?
I think the major misconception that people have about a preschool teacher, and here I'm picking my role as a preschool teacher, is that she must be into this for a little time pass. A preschool teacher cannot be in her profession for just, whiling away time. There is so much that goes into it. There is lesson planning, there is class decor, there is teaching aids to be made, there is assessment, there's report cards. Each and every child is a different being requiring different needs and different kind of attention, different game plan. So a teacher has to be able to stand on her feet and quickly think of ways to engage children. In her classroom setup, she may have children who are gifted. For those few children, she needs to prepare a new worksheet to keep them engaged as well. There could be some who are challenged in some way. So there's so much that goes into a teacher's day, and it is demanding, and she has to be very devoted, very sincere, on top of her game. So that, I think, is a total misconception when people look at preschool teachers.
So is it that a preschool or a play school teacher's profession is stressful?
To be honest, yes, it is stressful. A number of things are happening here. The first one being that there are about 15 to 20 kids in your class all at the same time with different needs. And, as I said, you need to be able to execute the lesson plan on time. There are various subjects that have to happen. There's break in between. You need to keep your eyes on, has each and every child eaten their tiffin well? You need to be quick in understanding that a particular child probably needs to visit washroom but has not come up to you. So I always felt that, as a preschool teacher, I wish God had given me more pair of eyes and more pair of hands to be able to execute everything. Yes, day to day, and hour to hour, I would say yes, it gets stressful. Also, sometimes I feel that the amount of hours that we put in, the amount of effort that goes behind each and every single day, the pay, sadly, is not really at par. It is definitely lopsided. Everybody who is into corporate, they get to demand their pay. And here as preschool teachers, we work into a bracket and that's about it. But I think this should change, because here we are talking about the love, the trust, the engagement at a cellular level. We are not just talking about playtime or story time or music time. We are, and it's not about alphabets and numbers. It's about cognition. It's about spatial and then emotional well-being, mental well-being, the child learning to express. So there's so much that is happening, and we are responsible. We are in charge of the developmental and the growth aspect of each and every child who is in our class at that point of time. So I think, yes, certain things can be looked at and probably can be changed.
What do you think is that one lesson or one learning that is monumental in nature that needs to be imparted in either preschools or schools that will help children develop their personalities for life?
Me time, reflecting time. I think we are bombarding children with so much stimulation and then gadgets playing their own bit. I very strongly feel that we are overstimulating our child, and we need to give them a little leeway in between. Let children be to become. If you let children be, then they will become. Our role just gets done there, and then you have to let them be so that they become.
That's a beautiful statement. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Yes, let's let children be so that they can become.
See, what happens is when we are teaching, we stimulate the brain and the neurons get fired. After which, there are neural pathways which get formed. Assimilation as a process needs to happen for forging those pathways. As educationists, as caregivers, as teachers, as parents, we fail to understand that we are not giving children enough time in which to actually sit and do nothing, which will help the brain in processing whatever we have just taught them. In preschool, at a preschool level, I feel we should have more circle time, more whisper circles, more quiet down activities where a child is probably just left in a corner to reflect, to imbibe, to process whatever has just been taught to them. We just fill their day with activities. Okay, इसके बाद ये, इसके बाद ये, इसके बाद ये करना है, अभी ये जल्दी खत्म करो. But where is the time for the child to absorb? They are like sponge and they need to soak in all the information bits that we have given them. So I very, very strongly feel that we must give them where they get to sit by themselves or in a smaller circle, just assimilating all the knowledge that we've given them. Once they do this, they will be more at ease and at peace with themselves. The higher ratio of tantrums, of hyperactivity in children that we are seeing, the temper tantrums that are happening, all of this could be a result of the brain being constantly fired at a way higher speed than what it should be. So I strongly recommend a slightly slower pace for preschoolers at least, which in turn will ensure that they are always stable and good in their own skin. And that will create a foundation for their personality as they go ahead.
So I'm sure there will be parents who are going to object to this. So where is the final balance? My child is developing. Let's expose them to various things and then let them pick what is right. Or I'm going to own their personality and get them to, learn chess early on. So I'm going to expose them to all of this activities early on.
What is happening, I guess, is that we are becoming definitely a little over ambitious. Also, this could stem from the fact that children are, as generations pass by, I'm observing this, especially when we have children coming in batches. So in 2 years' time, I'm understanding that children are coming by more and more smarter and they're just picking everything. So we also feel like giving them more and more, and we understand that children are picking up that much. So probably we are just getting carried away in this trend. And you are right. A lot of parents are also demanding. They are also proactive parents. Parents these days are both heavily invested in their child. They are also taking certain things on their hand and trying to experiment with what they can teach and how they would like to teach. In the process, I think we are just on a path where we are giving them more and more and more, not realizing that there is a growth pattern, that there is a growth spurt. Likewise, there is also a developmental spurt that happens. Maybe taking a pause in between and allowing the natural process to fall in place is the need of the hour today.
So what is that one change that the education system needs that really no one's talking about? Not educators, not principal, not the system, not parents, not teachers.
I don't have one, but I think I have 2 or 3 changes that I think nobody's talking about but needs to be addressed. Number 1 being that when children come to school, they're essentially coming to develop skills and values. Skills happen because of the curriculum that we have. It's, conventionally how we would send the child to school to learn their 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. In these times, we need not just IQ, but EQ, SQ, EQ being emotional quotient and SQ being social quotient. So we need, if we want holistic development of children, we need to keep these things in focus. And somewhere our value system is taking a backseat because we are so focused on giving them skills. Also be my second point, in loop with the first point where I'm talking about developing value systems. I think we are not putting enough weightage or enough importance on physical exercise regime.
Absolutely.
We just have PE periods, probably 3 or 4 times in a week. I am talking about doing physical training to the extent that the child imbibes it for life. And, we've really underplayed this, and we are seeing the repercussions now in forms of obesity. A fit mind lives in a fit body. Young children suffering from diseases how did that happen? And why are we letting this be? We are letting this slip away.
Right.
We need to up our game in context to the physical training and the physical exercise that should happen in a school format, in a school day, in the timetable, because parents are not going to be able to execute that level at home. They simply will not be able to. That calls for so much of discipline and a structure which only a school can do. So I think this needs to be addressed in a big way.
I agree with her.
And the third point being that, years ago, when the British came and they established their way of schooling, but we had a far more rich tradition and heritage. Of course, they did a brilliant job in the sense that, I think the education, the literacy level went up. But I think it's time to come full circle now and start, focusing on our learning methodology in a fashion that resonates with our culture and tradition of a teaching methodology that should be tapped and which should be executed. Now is the time to do it.
One such methodology that you really advocate.
That's a little difficult, but I would say respect that we are losing out for our teachers in a big way. They know what they are talking about. Come on. So, in the process of becoming friends or in the process of allowing certain factors to overpower and dominate, we are forgetting the values and the respect that we need to have for each and every individual. I'm not at all focusing here on the student-teacher rapport. I am just generally focusing on the respect for our own bodies, for our scriptures, for our earth. We need to start thinking quickly. We need to find ways of sustainability, respecting our resources. We all need to be mindful. I think mindful is the key word here, where, if only we could be a little more mindful in everything that we do, we would be on top of the game.
Right. And I'd say mindful and less entitled. A lot of kids of this generation are also so entitled. They so want something here and now.
Yes, brand conscious.
Brand conscious.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think sustainability, mindfulness, respect, I think some of the values that are really important for a good holistic development of a personality of a child, of our future generations to come. As a preschool principal, have you come across the term separation anxiety? So what really is separation anxiety? How can the school or the education system help parents and children cope with it, deal with it? What can parents do to help?
Sure. Shireen, definitely we have not just heard but seen separation anxiety happening right in front of us at the start of the academic year for each batch. It's a little disheartening and saddening to see how children and parents are handled at this point of time. I just wish, as preschools, we are not talking about primary schools, we are only talking about preschools here. So I wish preschools would open their doors to the parents and let them come in. When the child is born, the child is latched onto the mama and sees the mother as the provider, and it's the whole universe for the child. He grows up understanding the walls of his home. He has just about managed to figure out that this is where his home ends and this is where the park starts. And just because the child is 2.2 or 2.5, everybody around decides that, okay, it's time for the child to start preschooling. And sometimes the parent might be under peer pressure or parental pressure, or, probably the environment at home or the situation at home is such that they decide to start the schooling. There has to be a preparation time, and the communication channels have to be open. The child needs to understand from the parent that this is what is going to happen. The parent also needs time to process that the child is going to go in an environment where probably after a point of time she will have no control over.
Right.
But I strongly feel that the door should be open to the parents. Maybe the children should be called in batches along with parents, so that the weaning of process is happening at a much gentler pace. Right now, the norm has been that yes, schools do give a weaning off period of about 15 days or a week or so. But how is that going to be enough in a proportion of 2 years, where the child has only been around the mother, and here one fine day the parent is expected to drop off the child at the gate? Those children will develop abandonment issues. We are definitely not dealing with this process in a fashion that is sensitive to the need of the child, for the parent as well as the teachers who are, in the middle of it, seeing and having to do certain things to quieten the child. The child is not going to quieten down. He will howl and cry. And these will leave lasting impressions on the child. We need to take the responsibility and allow the parents into the classroom and ensure that this process is done in a manner that is a win-win for all the three parties. I always maintain that at a preschool level, it's a three-way partnership that is going on here, the school and the fundamentals and the ideology of the school, the vision, the mission of the school, the teachers and the parents. These three are creating a foundation for the child. And at a preschool level, everything has to be gentle, communicated. We should be able to crack this in a way that we don't leave any scars on a child.
I think there should be more empathy, more sensitivity, more gradualness in the transition and the weaning of, as you rightly report, both the parties, I think the child as well as the parents, they take a while to get used to the idea that they're not going to be there with each other. It's a huge process. It's monumental transition in everybody's life. So the win-win situation occurs is when parents are allowed to partner with teachers in the school, that the child begins to associate school as, I love being here, I'm enjoying my life, than the few moments of, why am I going to the school?
Yeah.
Why are you putting me here? I don't want to go here. Then I'm somehow learning to be okay. And then I am again complaining about, why did you leave me behind? Why did you do this to me? Or I'm not talking about it at all, I'm just quiet.
Yeah. Also, the mamas require handholding at that point of time. I have seen so many anxious facing. I've had mamas break down in front of me, and as a principal, as a preschool principal, I've had to take them in my cabin till they are okay.
But we shouldn't be bringing moms to the point of breakdown.
Absolutely.
Moms should know they have complete power of their children. They can bring their children out of the class and be okay and let their children be okay. Everything is fine. Why should there be a rule where mamas can't reach out to their kids because they are howling? Why are they got a breakdown? They've got a breakdown because they don't see their kids fine. They're going anti their instinctual feeling of wanting to protect and be there for comforting their children.
Yes.
So now they don't know what to do, or hence you had to console them, you had to be there for them, which was beautiful and sensitive of you. But really, as an institution, we don't need to get there.
Absolutely. These are all young adults and should not have to reach a point where they're
Yeah.
breaking down.
Yeah,
What are
we can
doing?
do something about this. We can do where women, where mothers are allowed to come for a certain period of time, be there with their children, feel like they are confident, they can trust this environment, create a bond and rapport with the teacher,
yeah.
explain to the teacher about what their children is all about. Slowly and steadily, when routines are changed, when a routine is formed, when the teacher has understood the child, the mother has, let her child be handed over to another individual who, of course, cares. Let that care show. Let that empathy show. If we deal with empathy and with children at such a small
Nascent
stage,
stage,
at
yes.
nation stage, we are building a future where we don't have to teach empathy or emotional skills. It's already imbibed. So how has your profession changed you as an individual?
Phenomenally, if I can say that. I became my own person, Shireen. I've had an incredible journey. I started as pioneering the concept of a book and toy library 20 years back. We learned on the way. Then, because the teaching aids and my affinity with the teaching aids, sort of started giving me the confidence to talk to parents, and I started understanding how play can impact a child's growth spurt and how it is instrumental in providing the necessary stimulation for the child. I started investing myself more in understanding play therapy. I started educating myself, went on to get a degree on early childhood education, became a teacher. On the way, there was so much that I learned from children, from colleagues, from the institute heads, and my parents. Subsequently, I became the center head of a preschool. It has been an incredible journey, as I said earlier, and now life has come full circle for me because currently I am associated with a company that is a book and toy library on an app. So it is 100% digitalized, and I am, I'm playing a role there, which is giving me the same basis that I had started with, making play as a very important tool for a child's growth trajectory. I think it's very fulfilling, very satisfying at the end of the day that I've had to play so many roles. And even if I can make one small difference somewhere in one child's life or one parent's life, I feel I've done my bit.
Real questions from our parent audiences, their concerns and their issues. Rapid answers from Nirupa, and help us understand what she thinks about what parents can do about these regular questions, regular issues that they face. So, are we ready?
Sure.
Let's go then. Our first question from a parent. My 4-year-old child hates to study. 4-year-old child, what do I do?
Let him be. I mean, study, children will run away. But when we are looking at learning, then it is interactive, it is interesting, and the child will definitely want to. So, there is a change in approach probably that is required here.
Great. Okay, our next question from a parent audience. My child prefers to eat only chocolates, candies, and cookies over normal meal. How do I develop healthy eating habits in my child?
Kitchen, I feel, is a science lab. Utilize it. The same cookies, chocolates, and candies can be put in a very nutritious way. You just need to be on top of the game. You just need to be a little more creative. And for parents who have not exposed their children yet to candies, cookies, and chocolates, please understand it gives a sugar rush. Therefore, they are addictive in nature. So, in case if you've not, then you're doing a good job. And for to be parents, please refrain from right on the onset. But yes, in case if you have, and if, as they say, they have tasted it, then you will have to only gradually get them back on track by maybe camouflaging with nutritious meals.
Right. Okay, the next question from our parent audience. My busy work schedule leaves me with very little time for my child. What do you suggest I do with my child to bond and connect with him with the little time I have with him in the day?
Work-life balance. It is a tightrope walking, and I do acknowledge that. Quality time is something that you'll have to prioritize and plan, and make sure whenever you are with your child, it is uninterrupted, it is 100%. Structuring your day helps. It goes a long way, definitely. Weekends is when probably you can catch up in a very big way. But make sure that as a parent, whenever you're sitting with your child, you are, focusing on some amount of learning outcome. So use certain resources. Maybe join a library or, consciously pick and choose on resources which will ensure that you are spending quality time and there is an outcome. See, what we want to do is we want to create memories together.
Right.
And that will happen if you are focusing and structuring your little time that you have with your child in a fashion that will create a lasting impact or give him a lifetime of memories to hold on to.
Okay, thank you. That was very insightful. The fourth question from our audience that is often asked to us. My child cries every day when I drop him off to play school. It breaks my heart. What do I do to stop the crying other than waiting it out for him to settle?
If your child is not liking the routine of going to school, maybe he is not prepared. So communicate, try to find the root cause. Maybe something is not right somewhere. Maybe he's not ready for this. No mama should have to follow a herd mentality and put her child when the child is not ready. There is a time for everything. If your child is not ready and you're pushing him to an ocean, making him, leaving him with only two options of either sink or swim, that's not what we want to do to such a tiny toddler. So don't try to cope with this alone. There is help available. Reach out to the correct people. Take care of the correct people. Teachers, principals, psychologists, pediatrics, counselors. You have so much help available. Don't ask your neighbor probably next door who will give you an advice that wo to ho jayega settle. No. I mean, yes, eventually the child might settle, but there will be repercussions or there might be an impact. So go to the correct channel, take help, and rectify. If your child is not ready, 6 months here and there is not going to make any difference technically. A child needs to be happy all the time. We need to ensure that.
Right. Our next question. I see a lot of parents trying to fill their children's day with various extracurricular activities. What is the fine balance between filling the child's day with activities and letting him just leave?
This is my favorite, and I
And you also spoke about
yes, and I cannot highlight enough how we need to pace our children's day at a much slower space. We really need to give them leverage of and luxury of time. Yes, it's important to engage them in a creative way, but we are definitely in a rush as
But
parents.
when does a parent know that they're overdoing it?
The child will definitely show some signs. It could be overt, it could be subdued, but there will be signs, and a parent has to understand those, read in between the lines scenario where you understand that the child is being pushed, the child is cranky, the child is not getting enough sleep, the child is craving for certain things. I'm sure there will be signs on the way for the parent to pick up on.
Maybe there is general refusal to go.
Yes.
There is disinterest in pursuing that activity.
Absolutely.
There is probably crankiness involved,
As I said.
or they just are being stubborn because you're pushing still and they're just not performing well. Correct. My next question. My child has alarming meltdowns and tantrums of lately. I am at my wit's end. What can I do about it?
Yeah, I understand, and these are getting very frequent and often. I would again say, please seek help because there is an underlying issue, and probably on our own, we don't need to fix everything, and there is a process for each such situation, each such episode. So, if you can change the gears and find a different way of doing things, maybe your attitude, your mindset needs a breather or a fresh perspective. But if you can't, and if your child, because when the child is throwing a tantrum, he and his body is also going through a lot.
Yeah.
So respecting that, acknowledging that, and taking a step back, and then approaching a professional help, I think is the right way forward.
Our last question from the segment. I was hit by my parents when I was young. I turned out just fine. Why is everyone advocating not to hit children, to discipline them?
Hitting is never an answer, Shireen.
Yeah.
We should not be hitting our children.
Why?
Anger is a raw emotion. It will only generate more violence, more aggression. I was hit by my parent and I turned out fine. No, I beg to differ. I think there are scars and there are residual impact on your personality, on your character. You are unable to process some of your anger issues. You probably don't have coping mechanisms as far as your reactions and your anger is concerned. I personally don't think hitting a child is a way to disciplining a child. The only thing as far as disciplining a child that works is love.
Thank you so much for such an insightful answer and all the answers that you have been talking to us about and enlightening us about. This segment has been so educative, so informative to so many of us. Thank you so much for coming here today.
And thank you, Shireen, for having me. I've had a wonderful time, a very interesting conversation. I'm glad I'm here.